Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel to the Road to FIDE Masters series. I know it's been a while, nearly 3 months, and even though for me as a player it's not a long time, I guess for you as a viewer it might be. Not only for you, also for YouTube. I got a reminder, an email that I have to upload more consistently, so I will try to do that at least for the future days, because I have to share with you guys the analysis of the games that I've played in the Roquetas Chess Festival tournament, played out in Spain from the 2nd to the 7th of January. So as you can tell, it's already been a week after the tournament. However, it's now the time that I found it to record the recaps. So hopefully you enjoy all the 8 videos that I am planning to do in the future days. Going back to the tournament itself, it was a strong open. I was rated as a 55th player out of 180. So I believe that was one of the biggest opens that I have ever played in, and it was quite a strong one too. So happy to play in such tournament. I did not have many chances before that. And looking at the starting list, as you can tell, there were even players above 2600 ratings, plenty of grandmasters, plenty of international masters. So happy to see that. If you scroll down far enough, you will see me on the place 55th. So yeah, very strong tournament. Regarding the transportation, logistics and all that, I went there with the group of friends. Some of them were playing tournaments, some of them were not. And before I will go to the analysis of the first round, I have a story to share with you. Because as I've said before, the tournament started on the 2nd of January, but we got there on the 1st. Therefore, we had a day to do anything, something, whatever. And we decided to climb the mountain El Fuerte, which is on the road from Malaga, where we headed to from the flight to Roquetas. And we went there, but the climbers were there were only 3 of us, and only myself, only I was playing in the tournament. 2 other guys were not. And the problem occurred at the top of the mountain, because it took us a little bit longer than we were supposed to be there, and it was already the 2nd of January. Therefore, there was a high probability that I will be very late for the first game. So it was quite a stressful and eventful day, and in order to show us what we were facing during the hitchhike, I will just share with you some photos. And as you can tell, the views were pretty amazing. But well, if you are a chess player going for the chess tournament, the nice views from the mountain is not the only thing that you would like to happen. You would like to mostly be on time for the game and win the game. So that's more or less the objective, right? So I guess that since that's the case, I was quite stressful. Thankfully, though, I was paired with a lower rated opponent during the round number 1, allowing me to, let's say, be a little bit late and not feel the consequences so much. Nevertheless, I did not underestimate the opponent for sure. I was trying to give him my best, even though I was like 20 minutes late. I got to the board, quite energetic, if you can say so, after such a climb, and yeah, ready to start the tournament. So guys, that's the introduction. I hope you also liked the story time and the views, the pictures I showed you. But I guess most of you in here are for chess, so let's start with the chess. As I've said, I've played a lower rated opponent. He had a 1922. As you can tell, I am listed as a 22-29 player, but FIDE keeps taking me 1 point away and giving it back to me. So on the starting list, I had 22-9-29. In here, I will have so, but if you look up my profile on FIDE, I am 22-30. So there are some recalculations going on in the FIDE world. Nevertheless, that's not the topic of this video. I might record another one on this because it's annoying me a little. But yeah, let's stick to the chess. My opponent opted for the c4 move. I decided to reply with e6, and after g3, I knew that we will be encountering some Catalan variations, quite solid for white. Therefore, I from the beginning had to think about, okay, how can I make the game more interesting and not so solid for the opponent. So I decided to play quick d5 with the idea of quickly taking the pawn on c4, because in that way I am guaranteeing most likely myself the fact that opponent will have to waste few tempos with a queen a4, queen c4, and then queen c2 or b3 moves in order to recapture the pawn, allowing me to get some tempo, some dynamic going on, and I like this variation of against the lower rated players. And in here, my goal, my aim is to play b5. However, as you can tell, this diagonal might seem quite annoying, so it has to be prepared more or less. So c5 was played, and after castling, I played b5. The point of c5 was that I can actually grab some space in the center and not allowed to try to at least jump with knight to e5 and this using this diagonal in a better way for the opponent. It's still well-known theory, so if you want to, you can look up to it on your own time, more or less, let's say. And we continued normally. I played bishop b7, bishop e7, and as of now, my opponent played a move that I believe is inaccuracy. So one thing I wanted to mention, those analyses are my analysis, so those exclamation marks and those dubious moves are noted by me, not by the computer. So if you will try to look up this game and check it with the engine, I guess the evaluations of specific moves will be different, but that's my analysis, my assumptions, my human feeling, let's say, about them. And even though this move is not like engine wise a bad one, I decided to put it like that. Why is that? Well, the bishop on f4, even though it's standing on the open diagonal, it hits basically nothing, and the point is that I will be planning sooner or later to maybe jump with the knight to d5, and with that I will be perhaps getting an tempo on the bishop, because most likely he will have to go away. So that's why it's an inaccuracy. However, knight d5 is not played out yet. I decided to finish my development with castling and then queen b6, and as of now the idea was that if my opponent plays a5, I will be happy to drop back the queen, because I would like to place the rooks on d and c files, and the queen is kind of out of place here. So a7 is like a temporary placement with the, then in the future maybe I will be able to create a battery or something. So even though it looks strange, it was fine. I believe we got such position more or less with the Michał Fiodorek guy from the Polish First League that I've recorded like 4 months ago. It was the first round, so for whoever wants to check that game out, you can go there. Structure we got was similar, but my opponent was 2300, so I guess the dynamic of the game was a little bit different. In the game, however, my opponent did not take on b5 yet. He played a move h3, which, to be honest, I still don't understand to this day. I was never really going for knight g4, I guess. So I guess it's a kind of a waiting move, but I believe there were plenty more better ones, like moving the rook to like d1 or c1, something like that. Anyway, after h3, I decided to do my rook moves, let's say, so rook a to c8, and trying to prepare either some c4, maybe b4 in good circumstances, and so on, trying to spice things up. My opponent went with e4 move, which was great to see from my perspective, because it allows the game to sharpen up, which is exactly what I want against a lower rated opponent. Therefore, I went with b4 with the idea that if knight jumps away somewhere, I have the c4 move, trying to disrupt this pawn chain. But there was an in-between move of a5, hitting my queen. Sorry, not a5, but yeah, a5, not e5. e5 was actually the move that I was happy to see. I would be happy to see, because after knight h5, I'm hitting the bishop, making use of this bad placement, as I said at the beginning of the game. And the point is that if my opponent tries to, I don't know, protect the bishop with the knight in order to have nicely placed pieces, I can simply just take on f3, take on e5, and get a pawn. Therefore, e5 is not working, and since that's the case, a5 was played. I have to go away with the queen, and now knight a4 is played. And this knight placement is, I guess, a better one than all the others that white had, so it was a good decision to go for it. However, with my c4 as of now, White seems to be in trouble. I seem to already take over the initiative in the game. In here, it was a critical moment for the opponent. He had a few different routes that he could have taken. I believe that the most powerful move was to play e5. I struggled during the calculations part to find anything against it. Computer suggests that I can take and play knight d5. I was just unsure if, let's say, opponent plays bishop g5, if I have enough like initiative going on, because my pieces did not seem that powerful and so on. Probably what I've missed is the fact that I can try to maneuver the bishop to b5 with some tricks. Therefore my bishop would be more active, I would be more dynamic and so on, but from the distance I didn't see a clear way for me to activate the pieces in a good enough manner. Therefore after e5 I was planning on playing b3 mostly, but it did not accomplish much in comparison to the variation I just showed you, because after queen went away somewhere, I can just once more take and play knight d5. So even though I felt like taking the pawn on b3, this variation actually felt better to me and for me than this one. Might be surprising for you, but the point was that without the b pawn, my pieces seemed at least to have a little bit more space for some activation. But still, I was unsure if I want to give away the pawn for the lower rated player, because then I have to prove that I can play good moves here. So yeah, after e5, I believe I would have to spend much more time to counter it, but thankfully it was not a problem during the game, because my opponent decided to take on c4 immediately. And with that, I was more than happy to see such continuation, because after bishop e4, queen e2, queen b7, I have basically everything I wanted, meaning my queen that was weirdly placed on a7 found its purpose, and I'm creating the battery. My bishop therefore is more powerful than the opponent's. My queen also is more powerful than the opponent's. I've created some strange pawn structure on the queen side, some strange dynamic in which usually a better player should navigate the position in a better fashion. And also I have the c5 square that I can try to use for my knight to activate one or the other, and I didn't find enough resources for the opponent. So yeah, since that's the case, I was more than happy with what happened in the game. And after b3, which was natural for the opponent, I'm happy that I found the move. It was inspired by Cossack Chess, so shout out to the Cossack Chess here on YouTube. He started to record in English, but now he switched to Polish. Nevertheless, he's a great guy who recently got his GM title. And why am I in mentioning the Cossack Chess guy? Well, because I saw plenty of his analysis, and during the individual European chess championship in the 2024, he played Nils Grandelius, once a player over 2700 FIDE rating, so I guess he knows a little bit about chess. But in this game, Cossack Chess, Kuba managed to get the a5 pawn for free. How? Well, the position obviously was not the same, but kind of similar, at least structurally. Grandelius pushed the pawn to a5, and after simple and quiet move like bishop d8, the pawn was lost, just like that. So yeah, White was in a big trouble there, and Jakub was able to draw the game without any problems whatsoever against such a great player. So thanks to this game, I got inspired, and even though at first I didn't know what to do in here, I then found the bishop d8 move. So yeah, happy with that. Obviously the goal is to take the pawn on a5, which seems as a weakness, and I don't care about bishop d6 being played, because rook e8 is a simple developing move that I quite like anyway. So in order to protect the a5 pawn, my opponent decided to jump to b2 with the knight, making the c5 control weaker, therefore allowing me to jump there with the knight. And after queen e3, as an attempt to attack the knight and also protect the b3 pawn, I can play knight f to d7. And as I've said, one knight jump there, the second one is protecting it, so it all seems fine. However, tactically it was not the best move. First of all, in here I was planning on playing bishop b7, but it then seemed a little bit counterintuitive to me, since I just played bishop d8. I wanted to put pressure to the a5 pawn. So bishop e7 was not considered by me as, let's say, the best move that I would love to play. It was considered as a necessity in order to protect the pawn thanks to the x-ray through the d6 bishop. But then when I saw the knight f to d7 possibility, I was more happy with that due to the fact that knight is now responsible for protecting the other one, and my bishop is free to go like anywhere. He can hit the pawn, he can maybe go to f6, so freeing up the f6 square was important. However, in here, white had an option, only one, but still an option, to make the game equal, as you can tell from the eval bar. And this option was to play knight a4. Why is that an option? I felt like it might be a problem for me, but my opponent at this point spent a lot of time. I knew that he struggles a lot to find a good move, and knight a4, it might not be the easiest one to play, since, as I've said, I went here with the bishop, I didn't want to go back. My opponent just went back to b2, maybe he didn't want to go back. It's hard psychologically to play such move. So the thing about it is that it's an attempt to exchange plenty of pieces on the board, which seems very good for white because I am the one pushing and having the activity and so on. And it's quite a good attempt because if I take on a4, then rook a4 is the move and my b4 pawn might be falling. Therefore, I'm not allowed to play that, and if that's the case, my knight kind of struggles to find any squares to jump to. And then I would have to play bishop e7 anyway, and with that my opponent would be able to maybe exchange things a little bit in a better fashion than during the game. So I'm still better, but it's not that clear how can I proceed with so many pieces exchanged. During the game, my opponent went for the other route to exchange the pieces. So in terms of ideas, he played fine, but in terms of concrete stuff, it was not a good move. He went for knight e1, probably deciding that my bishop is more powerful than the knight, so hoping to exchange the bishop. However, it was not the case really, because this move is a passive one. It blocks the rook, leaves the pieces here on the diagonal. So with the bishop f6, I am just taking over everything in here. So then my opponent even took on c5, getting rid of the only active piece. So in here I felt already that I'm very good. Rook a2 was played in order to protect the knight, and now I can simply play rook e to d8. All my pieces are active. I didn't take even on g2 because, well, my opponent can take me and then I will activate one more piece. So it's your turn, I don't care. And white is out of moves basically, so knight a4 both with knight d3 are the only choices in order to simplify the position and not get the position like totally lost because of pressures to all the precious, let's say, squares. And my opponent opted for knight d3, after which I found bishop g2, the only winning move, but not that hard to find really. The point is that after knight c5 I can take on c5 with the rook. Opponent cannot really take the rook because then I have bishop f1. I have one more bishop as of now, so opponent has to accept, and then I can simply play queen h1, check king e2 and bishop c3. And with that I am pressurizing the e2, e1 square, d1 square, so basically opponent's position is falling. Knight d3 is the only attempt, but then I found the point of queen b1, attacking here, I am simply winning. So even though the variation seems a little bit long, it was pretty straightforward, so it was not a problem for me during the classical game to calculate it. And if that's the case, opponent has to take the bishop on g2, allowing me to play queen c7, protecting the rook and having all the eyes on the a5 pawn. Also, I'm protecting the a1 square, therefore rook a1 is not allowed, so the pawn is falling. The question is how my opponent decided to exchange one set of the rooks and then go into such position, and obviously after rook d1 there is a threat of the back rank checkmate, so you always have to be careful until the end. But obviously it's easily defendable. I opted for g6, and in here my opponent went for queen d8, which I don't like from the practical point of view. If you want to achieve anything, I would say that you should try to activate the knight, maybe in a way like that, maybe push the h pawn, try to do at least something around my king, because otherwise I will be too good. Also, it is because of the fact that In here on the queen side, which I would love to play on, it's only 2 against 2 basically, so it's not the side of the board where I had the advantage, because in here I have 4 against 3, but obviously it would be much harder for me to play there and try to make use of it. And the exchange of the queens kind of allows me to focus on the queen side completely, because I have an easy route to the b3 pawn and so on. So queen d8 was the first bad decision, I would say, and the last bad one that basically made the game very easy to me was to play king to f1. I felt like in order to do at least something, opponent has to combine two matters, which is the pieces activity and c pawn push. So I would start with some, like, I don't know, knight e3 jump, and then after rook a3 c5, because it at least creates some practical problems for me. I have to calculate some variations, I have to be sure that I'm good there and so on. So I remember that I've calculated some line like that maybe, in which I finally would have gotten to the winning rook endgame or something like that, but still I am required to do at least a little bit of effort. After king f1, it's like my opponent will not be either on time to protect the pawn, nor for the attack or whatever, some counterplay. So it was quite simple. I played rook a3, rook b3, gave a check, pushed the pawn, and the pawn is simply unstoppable. And after b2, bishop f6, I played the last nice move, rook c1. The pawn is protected, the rook is protected, rook will be protecting the b1 promotion square, and that's how the game ended. My opponent resigned after 41 moves. During the span of the game, let's say, I managed to even get better on time. So as you can tell, those 20 minutes I lost was worth it because of all the views that I had during the day. And then in the end, I won the game. Obviously, if I didn't win, the narrative would be completely different. However, I'm happy about the result, about the day, so I won't ever complain. So that's that, guys. Very nice start to the tournament. Out of one against a lower rated opponent, but still, I will take it happily, because in the next round it was high probability that I would be playing against a higher rated opponent with white pieces, which is usually what you would like to achieve in the open tournament, because it increases your chances of not losing against one. And if that's the case, then you are on the way for the good tournament. So that's that. As you can tell, my opponent did not play a bad game by any means. He basically missed one or two opportunities in the critical moments. And I mean, he does not have to be so sad about it. And also at the same time, I'm happy about my overall play. 96 accuracy, I'll take that. And with that, I'm leaving you here. Thank you all guys for watching after the break. Hopefully you liked the video, plenty more to come. So if you are new around here, please subscribe. If you are old around here, please give a like to boost my algorithm, because YouTube started to dislike me after some time. And with that, thank you all for watching. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.